The SCP fanbase is one of the largest communities on the internet, which has called for the creation of many, and I mean many, games. The objectively best has to be SCP Secret Files. This game has one of the most interesting styles of writing and storytelling. So why don't you embark on this 30-minute journey with me? Wait, 30 minutes? That's odd. Oh yeah, I'm trying to get this out before Halloween, which I failed at. Okay, what I'm saying still stands. Oh, before I forget, I will be using a rating system for this one. This will be based on aspects of the game, gameplay, story quality, and scare factor. Okay, before we get right to the end of this, I should preface this with the fact that all this takes place over an overarching story that doesn't have too much impact on this, but I feel obligated to tell you. Okay, so this first story is about SCP-7457, which is a desert in this game made SCP. So, don't really try to look it up unless you want to see an SCP that's in a cave. I didn't really look too much into it, but I saw that. Even though it may be a bit annoying because we have less info to go off of, this is what I found. Quote, SCP Item number SCP-7457 Object Class Euclid Special Containment Procedures SCP-7457 is a barren desert area within a standard cycle of 15 days. Class D personnel must enter SCP-7457 and live within its confines while collecting and destroying SCP-74571. Description: SCP-7457 is a desert area approximately 330 square miles located in Nye County, Nevada, United States, adjacent to Nevada National Security Area. SCP-7457 will produce waste from human production activities, referred to as SCP-74571, at an incremental frequency, with a chance of producing SCP-74572. SCP-74572 appears to be a spindle-shaped metal spoon or spool with distinct anomalous properties. 8 to 12 days after exposure to it, Class D personnel will enter a disturbed psychological state and will be unable to continue with their mission. Its detailed mechanisms remain unclear. Appendix: Research log related to SCP-7457 D503 spent a total of 16 days in the desert area, longer than most other test subjects, but an NT suffered the same fate as the others. A mysterious, unexplained disappearance. God knows why this desert appears to eat humans yet spit out waste. End quote. This has to be the most random but intriguing stories that we have. This is basically how we're introduced to how we play these stories. That being us playing what is more or less a visual novel. This is just a novel that, isn't bad, but with less gameplay and actual, gaming in it. Which, that's okay. With this being the first story, I understand this isn't supposed to be, the best story or best gameplay. And it's remarkably fun and mysterious, even though all of its quality was clearly semi-thrown into it. You could see there's a lot of quality, especially in the graphics. But other parts of the game just aren't as good. And with, it basically just re-explaining what an SCP is to people who love and know SCP, that's kind of redundant. So with all this in culmination, I think I will rate it a C. For not so bad, but not the best. This one is about SCP-701, which is the Hangman's Tragedy. It is a 5-act tragedy set in Carolina era, although this one is the one that I would love to spoil a bit more. Here is the game's description of it. SCP-701, item number SCP-701, object class Euclid, special containment procedures. Currently all known materials related to SCP-701 are being held at Pony Station, Site 74. These materials include expunged. Description: SCP-702, Hangman's Tragedy, is Carolina-era revenge tragedy in 5 acts. Performances or plays are associated with psychotic and suicidal behavior among both audience members and participants. In addition, the appearance of a mysterious character, SCP-701-1, a typical case study of the SCP-701 incident, took place on May 27, 2009, during a group experiment performance. Presiding project researcher leader at the time was Dr. Tyler. According to the research logs, SCP-702 is a self-evolving metamatric virus that spreads through unknown means via dramatic text. Appendix: the investigator and recorder of this incident were Agent Bella Lawrence, who has since been included in the Foundation's Black Box Plan. Detailed information can be found in the document SCP-701-2009-B1 encrypted. This is far from what the wiki has, and honestly, you should read it. It is amazing, like always. The story has to be one of the best here, with some of the most beautiful gameplay and stories of this game. It's set in Pony Station, also known as Site 74, which is a transformed hydroelectricity station that, for whatever reason, has gravitational anomalies. You need to set up reality stabilizers. Although that is the most absurd part of the game, it uses that and its SCP to create some really interesting gameplay of the game, which, now that I'm saying that, sounds really redundant. With it creating the perfect tension that just builds up with seeing things in shadows and mannequins moving around and following you, with all of it culminating with multiple chases, also perfectly timed out to make it just difficult enough that you won't get it on the first try, but it doesn't feel at all unfair. This is all without mentioning how well it uses its setting. Its setting being a hydroelectric dam, which naturally would have many floors going downwards to its advantage. It is dark and dingy till you get to about floor 7, which is when you start to see people, and like everything's really sterilized and clean, with it being perfectly contrasted with right before then, seeing the waterway, maybe that's what it's called, I don't know, seeing bodies hanging from the ceiling. That just emphasizes how disturbing the setting is, with the final confrontation happening in the waterway room, fighting the king. Maybe that's the name, I'm not sure. With this fight being you surviving the play and then stabbing the king, with it all ending with a revelation on your character and Agent X and Q. You might be thinking, why don't they add in that part? Well, I think the only way to truly experience anything is by doing it yourself. So I want you to play this game. Developers truly created something really special, and you know, they're disbanded. I feel like it's worth playing. Link to the Steam page will be found in the description. Anyway, story is very well told, with it centering around the site being discontinued due to this SCP. You find notes of political struggles in the site, moral boundaries being crossed, and people being deceived. It all blends in with the gameplay and just general vibe of it perfectly. everything blending obscenely well. So, with all that complemented by the psychological horror angle and creating a stressful story, I'm rating this an A. Hey there, congrats on making it this far through it. You are now part of 3 to 4% of people who will see this. So please like, sub, comment, and boost my analytics. Let's go. Thank you for watching. Okay, so this one is a bit of a break from horror, but it is truly beautiful. SCP-1762. Now this, you might know as Here Be Dragons, or Here Were Dragons, and not dragging these notes.
There are many stories in this world. Some are read widely all over the world.
Here's the game's
Some
description.
are hidden in
Quote,
dust and known only by a handful of people.
Item number.
Today I'm going to tell you a story no one else has heard before.
Neutralized.
A
Special
real
containment
story of
procedures.
mystery
SCP
and wonder and adventure.
1762-1
And then you
is to be
too
kept in a
will become the
standard
guardian
containment
of this
cell
story.
at
Wait, is this
story
Dragon's
Placed
Research
in a world of long ago.
This release of
The hero of our story is a little boy.
This cardboard
His
box
name
measuring
is
32
Daniel.
centimeters by 20 centimeters by 26 centimeters. The words "Here Be Dragons" are
One
written
day,
on the outside
out
of
of
the
nowhere,
box in black
Daniel
permanent
got a
marker.
serious case of chickenpox. It
SCP-1762
made him look like a strawberry.
will occasionally open on
To
its
make
own.
sure he didn't spread it to others,
SCP-1762
Mrs. Page, the principal, had him isolate in an attic.
1762
And so,
That's kinda
in
messed
the
up.
attic he lived, all on his own.
instances composed of copy paper. All instances of SCP-1762 resemble origami in the shape of paper dragons. That's a repeat period such as during moments before SCP-17621 recovers all SCP-17622 instances. SCP-17622 will transmit information to the outside world by unfolding into sheets of paper while text automatically
Daniel
appears.
was reluctant at
Addendum
first, but he trusted Mrs. Page,
1762-1
and he
on
should listen.
June
And so he
22nd,
practiced the penny
2008, various incidental events
Oh,
involving
oh,
SCP-17621 occurred over a period of 11 days. The witnesses of the incident were Daniel Trevor, an 8-year-old boy living in Cascade Locks, Oregon. Addendum 1762-104. As of now, SCP-1762-2 fragments have been preserved in the collection room at the Institute as a memorial. End quote. Now for the story itself, this one literally made me cry during my playthrough.
Suddenly,
Just thinking about
he heard
it
some
now
strange noises
is
in the
honestly
corner
getting me a
of the
bit teary. So what happens is your young boy named
Daniel
Daniel,
decided to go
this boy
over
is
and
sick
take a
with
look.
chickenpox and is sent to the attic of his school. The way, no one else contracts it.
Whoa.
Up here, while playing his penny whistle, which is a metal recorder, he meets Penny. Penny's one of the
Ow.
origami dragons that he meets up there. Daniel and her slowly bond over a few days. Eventually,
It was a
Giant,
mousetrap,
also known as
and
that
there was
weird
a red
crumple
origami
up
paper
wad
dragon
of
inside
paper, comes out with an earthquake
Daniel
following.
carefully removed
This causes Penny to become injured,
It
and
was
yet to repair her,
marvelous
and she
and
flies
beautiful.
away.
The only problem
After this,
was part of
a few days
its
pass without you seeing her, and that leads to you playing your penny
found a way
whistle
to repair it.
more and more. Eventually 4 dragons come out. This causes a bunch of giants to come out, and then 2 of the dragons go all Super Saiyan and absolutely just wreck the giants. Giants. With those 2 dying to,
Daniel held the
save
repaired
you and
paper
your
dragon
world.
high
Eventually,
up in
an
the air,
endless pouring of giants
imagining
come
that it
out
soared
and
over all
and
the
create
world
an
below.
earthquake, with you being pushed into a
He
corner,
played
and a
and
real
played
giant
with the
begins to
paper
come out.
dragon.
Of the box, dragons begin to come to your aid. Then there's a full-out war between dragons and giants. This was where you had to play doctor and save dragons by repairing them. After this, you see the giants are temporarily defeated, but in doing so, the box was destroyed. With Penny being destroyed, she writes to you, "Goodbye, my friends," which just beautifully ends her story. After this, during the town show, Daniel plays a beautiful piece on his penny whistle. This being titled "Fly With Me," period. Because I can play a downloadable OST, I'll just make my recording of it louder here. It's a weird bit of information word.
A scrunched up ball of paper rolled over to his feet.
Where did this paper ball come from?
Just as Daniel went to pick it up, the ball suddenly came to life, and it rolled away. Daniel chased after it. Just as he was about to seize the rolling paper ball, suddenly, terrible sparks erupted from it. Before his very eyes, the paper ball began to grow bigger and bigger. At that moment, a red figure suddenly appeared. The red figure quickly subdued the paper ball and threw it into a cardboard box. Daniel studied the red figure carefully. It had a sticker on its fluttering wing. It was the paper dragon.
I wasn't dreaming. Thank you for saving me.
Daniel was grateful and very happy. He walked closer to the paper dragon, but the paper dragon seemed timid and afraid. Just then, Daniel had an idea.
Okay, even though this doesn't have any, horror, it is way better than the first story, so this deserves a solid grade B. Now, onto a messed up one, SCP-239. Now, content warning, this one has abuse in it. So for those of you sensitive to that, please skip forward to the stamp on screen, or if you look at the bar, I hopefully will remember to put it in there. Okay, everyone sensitive to abuse is gone. So again, I'm gonna ask you to, just keep some discretion, and I'll read the game's description now. SCP-239, item number SCP-239, object class key eater. Special containment procedures. SCP-239 is to be housed in a single room, equipped with one bed, one ECG machine, and one IV drip, containing pentobarbital mixed with data expunged to be replenished daily. Any personnel found attempting to awaken the subject will immediately be terminated. Description: SCP-239 appears to be a 7-year-old girl, 1 meter in height, 20 kilos in weight. Subject's name was originally Sigarius Stefan Doritos. SCP-239 appears to be able to perform any action so long as intent is shown, and there appears to be no limit to the subject is conscious and willing. SCP-239 is permanently contained at Site-17 in order to harness subject's reality distortion abilities. Foundation has launched a secret project known as Witchblade. The project, however, ultimately failed. As of December 26, 2005, subject has been kept in a medically comatose state till further notice is provided. The decision was made by Dr. Clive. End quote. Okay, So, you can see the story is severely fucked up. I don't want to sound too crude, but that's the only comparable word for it. This isn't half of it. And if you're observant, then it will introduce a very intriguing idea to you. That the character that we play in the outer story, or at least shares something that hints at his identity. This story is filled to the brim with intriguing storylines and impressive audio and visual horror, with a shocking depiction of emotional, physical, and psychological abuse. Now, since there are several different storylines, I'll give you a brief overview of each to give you a good idea of them. So with the little girl's storyline, this girl is named Segura Stefandurtier. I don't know how to say that. And she has superpowers, which is partly why the Foundation decided to kidnap her. How they knew that beforehand is beyond me. She goes through physical and psychological abuse by Dr. Pierce. After it was taken over, his project was taken over by his colleague, Dr. Violetta, she abused SCP-239 via emotional manipulation and psychological abuse. Who pushed her to experiment for the O5 Council to keep Dr. Violet as the person in charge. SCP-239 wasn't able to control her powers and assumed accidentally killed Violetta. This was heavily assisted by Dr. Pierce. Now after that, he pushed her and she was driven into a comatose state from an extreme shock therapy based experiment, which she has had to endure for most of her life. Now that part of the story, the stories, is down, and I have a deadline for this. I am going to glance over Dr. Pierce and Dr. Viola's relationship really quickly, and I just realized I severely missed this deadline. It is currently November 2nd as of recording this section of it, so yeah, that sucks. So they were former work colleagues who appeared to work on this project before, and or a similar project. Due to Violetta's missteps, she was taken off of it, which led Dr. Pierce to go mad with power. After a while of dealing with SCP-239, he is taken off the case. In place is Violet. Pierce is furious with this because, she doesn't do things his way. She tries to get the SCP to work with her via manipulation and coercion, which leads to her dying. Although her death was definitely avoidable, Pierce was able to let her escape, but because he was thrown under the bus for the case, he left her to die. This left a power vacuum that he filled. After that storyline, we have the character we play. The character is a current D-Clash who was a doctor before, quit because of a moral disagreement. He's forced to stop her from basically nuking the whole world, while also solving her mental trauma. This task camera uncovers and argues about Project Witch Hunt, which is SCP-239, or the experiments. He saved her by letting her go into a comatose state so that she doesn't have to endure any more abuse. Good God, that was a mouthful. But with all its terrifying implications, I'm gonna give this tier a whole tier on its own. The SCP tier. Okay, so this one I was really on the fence on including, but it's a really weird mix of abstractness and kind of surrealist horror, but it is kind of funny. SCP-426 is a toaster that, well, makes you think that you're a toaster with some disturbing ending consequences. Quote, SCP-426 item number SCP-426 object class Euclid. Why do I have to keep on saying that? I don't know. Special containment procedures. I am to be sealed in a chamber with no windows through which I may be viewed. The door to my chamber must be labeled completely unrelated to my designation or identity in order to prevent the unintended spread of my primary effect. Description. Hello, I am SCP-426. I must be introduced this way in order to prevent semantic confusion. I am an ordinary toaster capable of toasting bread when supplied with electricity. However, when any human mentions me, they inadvertently refer to me in the first person. Despite all attempts, there's yet of a way to speak or write about me in the third person. When in continuous presence for an extended period of time, subjects begin to identify themselves as a toaster. Unfortunately, forcibly restrained subjects will inadvertently harm themselves in their attempt to emulate my standard functions. Appendix. Death records. Research log 4261. Subject died of electrocution after plugging a self-made metal object into a socket. Research log 4263. Subject died of internal bleeding due to acute gastrodilation after eating 16 kilos of bread. Insane. Research log 4266. The subject died of excessive bleeding after cutting open his own abdomen, claiming there's breadcrumbs jammed inside of him. So honestly, this was by far the weakest story of the whole batch, which is kind of disappointing. This could have been really cool. Oh yeah, unquote. The only thing this really has above is just another story, and the gameplay is definitely interesting, but stories themselves are uniquely drab but yet surreal, which is really insane in its chaff compared to the other stories. With nothing of real note, I'll just give this a rating of C because I'm uncomfortable giving it anything else. Now that I've gone over the line shares of the game, I feel like it's only fair that I give you the reason you must have clicked onto the video. And well, I am done with my goddamn lead up. This game is all connected by one story that sets up like this. You're an employee at some restaurant and you're a recent grad. Some SCP person just kind of appears and offers you a job, and for whatever reason you accept it. After this point, you're put in the archives department where you deal with these stories. And that is all you really need to know. So with the stories connecting via that, it starts to build an overarching view, and it shows a creeping and ever-growing worry that the SCP Foundation is, or may be, more and more morally corrupt, or morally bankrupt if you want to be fancy. From this, each narrative is given a growing and growing worry about how messed up it will be. Each story becoming more and more story-oriented. Now, do you remember that score system that I told you about? You never really heard the criteria for it, did you? This was intentional. Gameplay was completely based on the game's mechanics. Story quality was based on the writing, believability, and how well written it was. Writing itself isn't, well written. If it has interesting story, then that's well written, while writing is, quite frankly, not that good. And then finally, scare factor, which is based on how well it could build up to a scare an intense moment, all contributing to the background story that by transitive properties lead to the 5 main stories, so it's just kind of like a circle or a loop. So now it's time for the game score, and this is contributed by each one of the stories, which to pad the runtime are the SCP level, A, B, then the 2 C's. So how I will be using this, well, it's going to be kind of how you calculate your GPA, hashtag college high school students, but with an extra level, S being 5, A being 4, B being 3, C being 2, and so on, but we're not going to need that so on. Then I'm going to divide by 5, which unfortunately gives us a 3.2, which is only just above a C, which it's just not a good score. Let's look at the reasons why. These being, this game only has 3 scary or spooky stories. 2 C's are the first and last stories, because they just weren't really that good, which really sucks. But what if? Wait. This is an insane thought that just came across my head. What if I can rate it what I want? I am God. So, I'm going to give the game itself an A because it was super fun and you really should check it out. I love it. Wait, what is this? I think I'm getting a call. Wait, give me 1 second.
Carl, next comes the final choice. There are 2 doors in front of you. 1 red, 1 blue. If you want to give up and leave, go through the red door. The past few months will have been like a dream. You will remember nothing after waking, and this road will end here. You go through the blue door. You stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Leave, or stay. The choice is your own.